So I'm not sure how much interest is in this, in certification, but I will move fast. I got 30 minutes. I don't think I need 30 minutes. How many people believe in certification, think it's important? To show your hands. Okay, I think a lot of people do think it's important. Cool. So I'll talk about what we're doing since MEF has done such a really excellent job in certifying, and certainly MEF 2.0 was very, very successful, and 3.0 it's well on its way to be super successful also. So our certification, I'll cover basically a whole bunch of areas. You saw this slide before, I already mentioned this. We've been doing certification for quite a long time. Very, very successful, 5,500 just in the certified professionals space, and then over 200 members have been certified for their products and services. So we certainly know how to do certification, and it's been very beneficial for MEF. I think what's the most important thing is a couple of things. We've changed our logo. If you notice MEF, the old logo is the one over here, where you see that kind of MEF, and now you can see the new MEF logo is kind of more modernized. In our website, anybody who is CE 2.0 certified will now get the new logo put to themselves right here. So that's a really big deal. So I think certification has been really popular for many reasons. Enterprises, I think, now can buy a service and know that what they're buying, and I think SD-WAN will follow the same way in other areas. When they buy something, they know what they're buying, and they know it's going to work correctly. And that's from a subscriber looking from a uni point of view into their service they're buying. And then also between providers, as the providers are connecting to make sure that that connection works as to the specifications. So I think those are two very important aspects. And then certainly from the vendors are really important because the service providers are relying on the vendor's equipment to work right. And so if the service is going to work right, the vendor's equipment have to work right. So that's key takeaways. So what we've done in the MEF, we've delivered a whole new platform, as I talked about in the first session. I talked about on how to do certification in a whole cloud-like agile manner, because with APIs, we can't do certification the old way. The old way was you actually brought in a box, or your box, or you got shipped in these boxes, and you had to actually talk about what were you basically trying to certify, and what were your network, and the distances involved of where you want to certify between two endpoints is. And it was all these kind of pre-requirements had to be put in, and it was all calculated, and it was very manual, and there's no automation. So we're now applying all this automation because APIs are going to change, and services are going to change, as you saw from the spec of Carrier Ethernet, how fast even Carrier Ethernet specs are changing. We need much more agile certification. So this again is our CE 3.0 framework. I won't spend a lot of time on it, except we're going to just focus now a little bit more deeper in the certification aspect. You saw Rami talk a lot about the LSO API, and then you saw Mark talk a lot about SD-WAN, and then certainly I'm just going to cover the certification side. So today, like I talked about, we do have our MEF 3.0 Carrier Ethernet R1 is now available for certification. Any carriers, any vendors who out there who want to certify, you're welcome to do that. It's open for business, and we're using this new platform to certify, which I'll talk about in a minute. I showed you this slide before. It talked about some of the changes from 2013 to 2017, some of the spec changes, new operators, enhances, and subscriber side, operator side, and so on. And again, this is probably a nice visual to show, what was in 2.0 was certified, and even though there was a lot of changes in spec, if you were certified in 2.0, even like in 2015, you were still being certified on these specs, even though all these specs over here in services have come out in assurance. And so it's a big change to have and change the certification process. As I talked about, it's really a whole new process. It's a portal-driven model, just like LSO. No more do you take the requirements, or the certification house doesn't take all the requirements in by paper or emails or phone calls or consulting. It's all driven through the portal, and the portal, you can drive tests. So the real important thing is that you don't have to actually run this to just get certified. You can run this platform to actually test to see if you're compliant. and see where the failures are, where the issues are, fix them, run them again, run them again, run them again until you get compliant. And then when you're compliant, you can say, okay, post that to say I'm compliant, and that gets posted to the website. So it's actually really nice. And it's all, again, delivered by a cloud-based platform with agents, and all done, and agents talking back home, uploading a new scripts, test plans as the new APIs come out, as the new services come out, and changes the services. So here's a more detail of how it looks like. Again, some of the details are, you can see that Iometrics is our test house, and they have a test engine, and basically they talk an emulator that can emulate some of the LSO API functionalities is a very important aspect. And then they test the service, and this is the most important thing. They're testing the service to be run end-to-end, and in this case, showing an access, a UNI to a provider, so ENNI. So this is a e-access kind of scenario, but it could be E-line, E-tree, any of them. The other thing is you want to talk about is that we're testing the service and not the APIs, but it could also be, we could test if, there's no LSOs involved and they're doing static only for bringing up carrier Ethernet to the 3.0 version. It could be run just in static and not have any APIs involved. Or you can, as a provider or vendor, subscribe to the API parts that are being released, and the system will actually test the orchestrated part of that too. So it'll test to see that the E-line or E-LAN or E-access got orchestrated through this emulation, and it turned up, instantly. So both static and orchestrated are supported. Today, the orchestrated obviously needs more of the APIs to get to the standard state, and we're getting there very fast. By the end of the year, this should be middle of the year, the end of the year, we should have all that in place. But certainly the static is available now. So look, this is what it looks like on our website, and the drill down is that if you go to our website, I think the difference is, first of all, you get the company, you get the logo, it's 3.0 certified, you get if you were 2.0 certified, and then also the amount of the CCPs that were kind of certified. What you now see is you're going to see changes of more detail about what does that mean to be certified, what services are certified, are they orchestrated or static? So there'll be a lot more details, and you can just drill down. So any company, subscriber, service provider can get the details from our website, from this registry at the very top, and get all these details about how well that vendor, how well that service provider has been certified to that service. And again, today we're talking about carrier Ethernet. Tomorrow will be SD-WAN, optical, all the other services coming out from that. We'll all follow the same certification process. So here's basically, some in the 3.0 carrier Ethernet R1 certification, which is available right now. You have subscriber services from E-line, E-LAN, E3, and then you have inter-provider services also. And these are all the specs that kind of comply to this version of certification. Again, some big takeaways is there some being, again, I talked about this orchestrated APIs, there'll be new services, it's all virtualized test platform. But you can see that Access E-line and Access Transit E-line was not there in CE 2.0, but it is now in 3.0. So operators, providers are supplying this kind of capabilities. That's now available to be certified. And then finally, we're calling this on demand. And so again, I talked about this. To keep it really simple, the scope is all defined, and then it's included in the target, in the device under test or the service under test, and then basically that test gets uploaded into the probes, and it gets run, and it's all on demand. So we were calling it subscription, but we're finding that more and more operators and vendors want it on demand, and they want to pay on demand, much like, I guess, instead of paying a monthly recurring fee, they want to be able to pay as they use it. So it's a pay-as-you-use kind of service. It's what it's starting to look like. More and more people want it to be like that. So basically, here's how you go about. If you want to get certified, you create an account, Iometrics. You access the portal. You connect to the cloud. You download the probes into your own bare metal machines. You configure on the MEF 3.0 configure the product or the service you want. You run the test. The tests run automatically. They basically spit out the results. You troubleshoot any problems, and then you rerun again. And then once you finalize, you can submit your test results to iMetrics, and then they finally validate that and say, yes, you're certified, and then goes into the portal and gets published. So this is our process. So again, we've been doing certification for a very long time. I think the most important thing is we do certification on services and professional services. And on the professional services, this is a real important aspect. I didn't cover this before, but the CECP has been very, very popular, and this is the Certified Professionals for Carrier Ethernet. We've now included this whole idea of this network foundational level, and there's quite a few that's already been certified and passed, and really designed as a broad stroke about teaching pre-sales and all the kind of sales, pre-sales, even operational people, broad knowledge about SDN, NFV orchestration, which to date is, you think it's kind of very apparent and very ubiquitous. But the answer is that, us kind of more in the advanced area of research and development know a lot about this, but really in the field, they're still grappling with understanding what is SDN, what is NFV, what is orchestration, what are these services, what's SD-WAN. So this foundational layer really gives us, and this is available now, and you can go to Test House to get learning, and you can actually do the test online and pass that, get certified. We were just about to announce a full, in-depth, more technical SDN NFV course. This will be very, very in-depth. And the big takeaway is we just didn't do it in isolation. We've been working with Linux Foundation and ONF and so on to build this test. And so this will be announced very shortly and coming out very shortly and available. So CECPs can work with the, and get also SDN NFV certified in the master, in this kind of more detailed, more professional, technical level, and I think this is a real important aspect. The really great thing about this framework is we're building upon the idea of getting like the kind of equivalent of the Cisco world where they had all these designations and you could be this master expert, the guru expert, and it's very few that will get there, but basically we have an expert level that if you get a few of these, you get into the expert level, and then in the master level you have a few of these and some other external credentials, you can become like the Jedi Master inside this whole certification framework. So this is really great for professionals. And the reason we did this was we know that as we go through this transformational journey, more and more of the network operations people have to turn to DevOps, and they have to understand APIs, they have to understand all these new constructs of this network transformation of SDN and virtualization and softwareization and all this stuff. And we feel that this is really important from a DevOps point of view. And as you know, the world's moving to DevOps. So with DevOps, you have to be very software-centric to begin with. And APIs play a very important aspect. So I think I did it in record time, 15 minutes, so that you guys can get out of here, get some dinner and some drinks. Open for some questions if there is any questions, and please feel free. You have a mic coming up here. And any questions you had throughout the presentation, there's still some of the speakers still here, I hope, and we can answer any of them. We still have time if you really want to stay.
Hi. What's the position about certification of the APIs?
Yeah, so we won't really certify the API itself. We'll certify that the API behaves what it's supposed to do in functionality to what the service is trying to pass. So think, like, let's say you have an order. Like, could I place an order, and did the order go through, and did it pass the right information on the order? We're not going to test the semantics of the actual API itself to say, did the API do the actual calls? So we're not going to actually check the calls and the function of the calls and that kind of stuff.
So how do you prove interworking?
So we will actually pass the service. Interworking in between providers, as an example?
Or between, say, OSS vendors and lower level
Yeah, so like the Presto stuff. So
Yeah.
we'll make sure, like, so for example, in the use case of provisioning, I provision a service. Did it go down into the open daylight controller? Did the ODL controller take the Presto API, instantiate it? Did it actually go and use and take the logic in the ODL to do maybe a path computation and then do a topology discovery path computation? Did it create the E-line service underneath for the device under test, as an example, or the service under test? And the answer is yes. Then we know, okay, the API performed its function. And so we're testing the function of the API, not the API itself.
Just to add on that, so basically, MEF is certifying the service. So we have two type of services, dynamic and static, and I'm talking about can be layer 1, can be layer 2, can be layer 3, can be SD1 eventually. If you're talking about, let's say, layer 2 static, we tested the same way we did it before, but now it's from the cloud, and we test the service behavior.
With new specs. With
Yeah,
the
with
updated
MEF
specs.
3.0, with the new spec, the MEF 3.0 service behavior. If you want to select the option of dynamic service, we test the same service definition, but now you need to modify them. So you have to use the API in order to modify them. What we really test is the behavior of the service while you are exercising those API to modify it.
Including creating a service, changing the service. That's what he's talking about.
Okay, so you're certifying the east-west connectivity effectively.
Or north-south.
Okay. Whereas because you've now gone up to layer 3 in your stack, there's also an interworking issue between OSS vendors and box vendors.
Correct, but for the operator, each operator will implement it the way they implement it, and they eventually want to certify their service, not the OSS, their service, that the service is dynamic. Now, we also have certification for vendor. So if vendor provide a solution, he can certify his solution to work, to provide dynamic services. And hopefully the people that adopt those API will do the same thing. If we want to implement a service with multiple operators, then they will have to exercise Sonata and Interlude as well.
Also, you gotta remember, we're going to model-driven API approaches. We didn't cover a lot of that. And if you come to the workshop, you'll see that. In a model-driven approach, you define your APIs in information models in UML. And then we have tooling that we're all in the community working on, open source tooling. And that tooling will generate out APIs and client service stub code in any language you want. So using Swagger, CodeGen, for example. So I have slides. You can go on offline and I can show it to you. That's going to generate all the proper API structures. But what you put logic into the API, that's where we'll see if it actually works correctly to the service definitions. So testing the actual API's got no value because the tooling generates it anyways.
Yeah, continue your discussion here. You mentioned about the Swagger to generate the API. Then the question is, why you need TM Forum API?
Because the TM Forum, so it's a good point. We're modifying the TM Forum APIs. Now I'm getting into a lot of details. So this is happening now, and it'll be announced at ONS. TM Forum, I shouldn't talk on behalf of TM Forum. There'll be changes coming in the TM Forum APIs, and they'll have to be retooled and regenerated to new APIs. So for example, I don't know if there's going to be an announcement. Actually, it's embargoed. I have to be careful. Yeah. There's announcements coming next week that will make a lot of your question clear.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good answer.
Any other questions? Any questions from any of the presentations while we're here? Okay, well, I would like to thank you very much for staying this long, and we really appreciate you attending. Oh yes, slide on what? Okay, there's one, you added one more. Okay, it's advertising. Come to Athens if you can. First of all, great place, and go ahead, Ravi.
meeting in the year. It's by the end of April. If you're around, come join us. Many of the things that we discuss here, we are working on them. It's a work in progress. If you don't come to Aton, you can still join the call. I told you, at least on my presentation, what are the calls. If you log into the wiki, you will see all the calls. If you're a MEF member, you can join the calls. I encourage you to come to Aton. It will be a full-day workshop on Tuesday. So Monday, we'll have the plenary. Tuesday will be a full day of workshop, more details than this one. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and some of Friday, we'll also do some committee works. Go to the wiki, see the Q2 if you want, join us. Please, thank you.
And Rami will promise to buy you drinks too. Thank you, guys.